Here's part 5. I know there's a few videos in this series. I'm trying to keep them shorter so that you can tune into the parts that you need as you need them.
Okay, so I have the driven plate and all the subsequent plates lined up so that the 20-meter element is on top. So I'm going to start feeding it on that and then get the rest of the elements going. So back to high school geometry for the help here. I need to cut some guy wires or guy rope. I know how far out it is because I measured from where I expect the center to be 5 meters. That's a square, right? B square is going to be the height, and then C square is going to be the hypotenuse, and that'll tell me how long the guys need to be. So I'm going to do that math and cut some guy wires or rope and then fit them in for a test. So to the first guy plate, we're looking at 3 meters 10. I call it 3 meters 15. And then to the second plate, we're looking at 5 meters 85. To the third, we're looking at 8 meters 56. And to the fourth, we're looking at 11 meters 34. So with those numbers, I'll go work out some math and figure out what length guys I need. Right now, all I'm going to do is cut the bottom guys, because I'm going to be putting this up and taking it down a few times while I get the antenna tuned. But I also want to be ready with the math to cut the rest of the guys that I'm going to need to tie everything down. So high school math to the fix here. Guy point number 1 is 310 centimeters up. Actual anchor point is 5 meters out, which is 500 centimeters. 310 squared plus 500 squared equals C squared. 96,100 plus 250,000. 346,100. Square root of that is 588 centimeters. So I'm going to cut guy ropes that are 7 meters long. So I almost used Cal's supplied mast strand, but I'm going to switch at the very least for the very bottom set to Blue Water Rope's Nightline. It's an orange. It has a reflective coating in it that any flashlight makes it super bright at night. It's just like a street sign. That's what that stuff is. It just reflects right back at you, and it's super easy to see at night because the light reflects off of that. I'm not the only one that walks in my backyard. Since I want to avoid people getting tangled up in this, I'm going to go ahead and at the very least run the bottom set of guys with this rope. So it is time to start putting a little bit of tension on these elements, have them threaded where they need to be. So I'm going to start with the 17 meter, and the 17 meter one is got an extra 5 centimeters, 2 inches or so of extra wire in it so that you can loop it. That's about right. Check that. I need to go get different tape. This one is leaving the adhesive on the back side instead of on the side it's supposed to be. That's why it didn't stick. This is one time where being over-prepared is always nice. When I went to the store to get the extra butt ends that I didn't need, I bought an extra roll of Scotch Super 33, so couldn't find the 3M Tem Flex at my local hardware store, but it'll be okay. That's much, much nicer. Next is putting some tension on this from the 17 meter element hole on the plate over there, and we'll get there in a second. There's some flex there. I happen to have a marker here, and then this will stretch all the way down. Yeah, that'll give me enough room. So I'm going to have this white paint marker here to mark it so that I know where to cut it inside. I don't want to cut it here because I don't want it to fray. I'll show you a trick in a second. Okay, so let's find that white mark. There it is. You know how to make an easy fray-free cut, right? Great. Make a fray-free cut. And then before you go back out, where is my doobly-doo? There it is. I'm not a smoker, but I keep one of these around because I work with nylon on a regular basis. Look at that. All you have to do is scorch the edges, and it'll keep it from fraying, and it'll make the next part a whole lot easier. There you go. Simple. Don't let it burn hard. Just a little heat gets rid of the fray. So I was just fitting the 80 meter element to the mast, and I realized that I screwed up. So I cut it just like the instructions say, 80 meters, up 17.2 meters, and back 4.83. And then a little loop of 10 centimeters for 22.23 meters total. Well, down here, 80 with 11 and 10 meter band. I don't care about the 11, I care about the 10. And I just thought it was a difference in the instructions, so I didn't read it as well. And now I realize it's more than that. I need to cut 17.5 plus another 7.2 for a total of what? What's the math on that? 24.7. So I'm going to recut this and re-terminate that now, and then go back out and get it on the antenna mast. So of course, no sooner than I am ready to actually hoist the mast up, the wind's kicked up, and I'm just not going to do it in these winds. Came back inside of the garage to realize that, I've cut all the elements and took most of one spool of DX10, but, and that's even after messing up the 80 meter element, right? So I'm scratching my head. I have a spool of DX10 and, mostly use, and then I have 3 more, and something didn't compute. So I went back and reread the instructions, and yeah, I missed something. I'm supposed to save a spool for replacing elements later down the line, and use 2 of those spools for radials. I have effectively used more than 2 spools worth by using the 14 gauge, I should say more than 1 spool's worth, by using the 14 gauge THHN that I have, but not quite 2. So I'm going to take another spool of 14 gauge THHN and run some radials out of it while I'm waiting for the winds to calm down. So the radial length is not a critical measurement, right? We just need to be in the ballpark. I work out, I happen to have dumbbells handy. What I'm going to do is I have 2 dumbbells, one at either side of 10 meters, and I'm going to pin the beginning of the wire with one, and then I'm going to use the handle of the dumbbell as the turnaround. He's going to go back and forth until I'm out of wire in the spool. Tie it together, cut all the ends, terminate all the ends, and walk outside ready for victory. So between the first spool and the second spool, I'm looking at 500 feet of wire per spool. It's 1,000 foot of wire, which is roughly 300 meters of wire for ground radials. If I were using DX10, I would have to use all the rolls that came with the kit. So I'm kind of happy that I've gotten a good deal on this stuff. I think it's time for some fun music. 500 feet or 150 meters, give or take. 14 gauge gave us 13, 14, 15, as you might expect, runs of 10 meters apiece. I'm going to tie this up here with just enough room to clear the dumbbell head, because if I don't, what's going to happen is it's going to turn into a mess, and I don't want to deal with a mess. So I have it tied up so that I can just trim all the, cut all these right there, and then put ends on it and take it straight outside with as little mess as possible. There's still going to be some coiling that's going to happen down the wire, because the wire's been on the spool for a long time, takes that memory on it, and it is copper, so it's not like it's a springy material. So this is going to be a bit of a pain in the butt, but because these are going to be in pairs anyways, I'm going to go ahead and trim one at a time and finish a pair at a time. That way they are ready together when it's time to go outside, less unraveling. So all the 10 meter runs are terminated now, and this is what I meant. See that mess? That's what I'm trying to avoid in general, right? I don't want to have to fish all that through, so that's why I kept all this together. What's remaining now is simply coming over here, and the only wire I don't want to cut is the one that's going to the spool, because there's very little of it left on the spool. So I'm just going to string it out. But now I'm ready to drag this outside and complete the field of radials.
All right, gang, that was part 5. Stay tuned for part 6 coming up soon.